98 Not Out, sponsored by Shepherd Neame, proud supporters of cricket in Essex.
Now, in this week's Cricketer, there's a really interesting interview with Surrey Chief Executive Richard Gould, who was talking about the prospect of crickets after lockdown and an interesting insight into the state of finances at Surrey. So he's worried about the prospects, and I think we were talking about this earlier, the prospects of a recession looming in 2021 as we come out of, hopefully come out of virus by then. And his biggest concern is for the players. But he does examine the finances and the balancing act that needs to be done. He mentions the 100 and poses the question, is it viable in terms of cost, and would that money be better elsewhere? Surrey have always, as we know and we talked about on this show, they've always been kind of, they've had sort of an antipathy towards the 100 from the word go. And Gould goes on to cast doubts on the benefits of private finance entering the game. Again, another subject we've talked about here. Remember, KKR are reportedly investing in the 100, but Gould fears that any money made, if it becomes a success, would not go back into the game as it currently does under the ECB structure, but will go into the pockets of shareholders. So we've managed to get the writer of this article, who's joining us now on the line, Huw Turbervill. Huw, welcome to 98 Not Out.
Good evening.
Really interesting article. Do you want to just tell us a bit more about what Mr. Gould had to say?
Yeah, so it was the announcement of the 2018-19 Surrey finances, and they had a bumper year last year, a once-in-a-generation year, really, with the World Cup, 4 or 5 games at the Oval and an Ashes Test match, albeit it was a dead rubber, but it was still a thrilling match and well attended as usual, as Oval Test matches are.
They are.
And they made, I think, 6.5 million.
Not bad.
Fantastic year, which is kind of not neutralised, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Mitigated
a little bit from this COVID lockdown. So they can kind of allow it to have a terrible year, really. But obviously they don't want it to go on much into 2021.
Now, do you see, Huw, once this starts easing off a bit, do you think we'll see crowds back in grounds this year, or do you think it's more likely that it will now be next summer?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any crowds this summer, but I know that the Surrey are not ruling out having some international matches at the Oval. They don't see necessarily that this hotel business is the be-all and end-all of the matter. They think they can offer pretty biosecure conditions without a hotel. And in terms of the 100, I think it's fairly well known, isn't it, that Surrey don't feel the need for it. And to be honest, you can see why. They have 7 blast games at home every summer, non-COVID summers that is, and they fill the Oval out with 20,000 plus crowds and make phenomenal money.
They're big nights. I've been to a few T20s at Surrey, and the whole thing is very, very well staged, and it's very slick.
It's a bit of it's a bit of a lager session, isn't it, for many? But,
all of them, yeah.
but it's good fun. Yeah, it's good fun for the family. The kids go around collecting the glasses and getting pound deposits back and everything.
Yeah.
Or should watch the cricket a bit more, but no, it's all good. But they don't need the 100 really. There's nothing in it for Surrey. But I suppose the broader view is that this is hopefully going to rejuvenate maybe some of the other teams in it, the Cardiffs who don't fill out the blast games. The ECB believe that the 100 will fill out at Cardiff, or it will do better than the blast. It just remains to be seen, doesn't it? I mean, ECB have spent a huge amount of money on the 100.
Is it past the point of no return? It's definitely going to happen. They're going to stick it out. Do you think?
Well, certainly I was of the opinion early in the summer that it would happen now, and that it will be given 1, 2, 3, even 5 years perhaps. It will be given a chance by the sceptical counties.
Yeah.
But it all seems to depend now on the new ECB chairman, Ian Watmore, what his view of it's going to be. I mean, Graves is a supporter of it. Colin Graves gave his chief executive, Tom Harrison, his head to launch this competition. I think it was Tom Harrison's brainchild, really, with his marketing team. But if Ian Watmore comes in and decides that it's not worth all the money they're spending on it, they might well look at Plan B.
What is more important, do you think? I mean, I'm just interested in your opinion.
Yeah.
Given the situation we're in, and given Richard Gould's comments about a possible recession, and thinking about, are we going to still have 18 first-class counties by next season? Would the ECB be in a position, do you think, where they have to decide, do we use money to try and help the smaller counties to keep them going, or do we have a process of natural selection, let them go to a lesser status and then to preserve something like the 100?
Tom Harrison believes in preserving all the 18 counties, and I think the ECB are pretty egalitarian in what they pay. I mean, they're paying each county 1.3 million each for the 100, and I think they also recently, I think I might have mentioned that story or another one, that they gave them about £1 million each for the visit of India.
Yeah.
What summer was that? 2017 or 2018?
2018.
I think. So this is the thing. The ECB's cash reserves were 73 million, and then a year ago they were down to 11 million.
Mm.
Now, when they were 73 million, everybody said, "Oh, the ECB aren't doing enough to help the counties." So they give out all these handouts. The 1 million for the World Cup and the 1 million for the India tour. That's 36 million. They've gone down to 11 million now. I think it might even be lower now.
Mm.
And now they're being criticised for being too profligate and not putting enough money aside for a rainy day. I think somebody said you should try and aim for reserves of 40 million in your account. So, anyway, in answer to your question, I think the ECB have tried to save all 18 counties. And I said to Surrey, do you feel a need or duty as a big county to help the little counties? But their view, and Richard Gould was on record as saying was that the bigger counties have more worries than the smaller counties in many ways.
Mm.
For instance, they were told they had to improve their grounds to host Test cricket, like Durham and Cardiff, and that's why they got an enormous debt. This is the pre-Harrison Graves regime.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
When Morgan was chairman, David Morgan. So Richard Gould said really it's up to counties like Leicestershire. He didn't single out Leicestershire, but we all know the ones we're talking about.
Yeah.
To really stand on their own 2 feet, and that's why counties like Leicestershire and Kent, the non-test grounds, have got to work really hard to have concerts and Elton John gigs. And I mean, he was at Huw, wasn't he? And
that's right.
so it's up to them to be self-supporting businesses. They're getting the ECB money. Really, they should be sustainable, really, because they know they're banking on this money from the ECB every year.
I think
they're not looking at such big overheads as Hampshire and the Oval and all these people who are building hotels and ground improvements and things.
Some of the smaller counties, I think Northamptonshire have set some really good results, Somerset, Essex. So they are kind of getting there. Is the problem for the ECB is they need to start generating more money to compete with the BCCI to have a bigger say in what goes on at the ICC? Yeah,
I mean, the ongoing relations with the BCCI have always been a concern, haven't they? I mean, probably that wasn't the most smartest tactical move to fall in with Giles Clarke when he fell in with Stanford. And West Indies T20 and all that. And I think there's more of an emphasis now on staying in with the BCCI, isn't there? I think there has been talk about possibly some Indian players coming to play in the 100, if it happens.
What I thought was interesting from your interview was the comments that Surrey are still heavily dependent on gate receipts. You would have assumed that the Surreys, the Lancashires, etc., would have had so much corporate and off-field activities going on that would have been.
I think those two counties have. But what was interesting for me was that the Premier League football teams rely on Sky money.
Yeah.
About 70% of their incomings. Whereas Richard Gould was saying, I think it's only about 10% for Surrey.
Yeah.
And they actually rely on these bumper sellout crowds all 4 or 5 days of test matches, all 7 blast games. And, as you say, they make phenomenal money on corporate entertaining in marketing, don't they?
They do.
And Lancashire do as well, because they've hit this gold mine of having this corporate entertainment before matches.
Yeah,
So all the
because they're just across the road, aren't they?
Mill down to the cricket ground before the match, and then mill back up to Old Trafford football. So it's kind of like a lottery race.
It does help. You're managing editor at the Cricketer magazine as well. How have you been finding things at the magazine? Are you getting much more interaction now that people are at home more often? I know you're putting out lots of great quizzes and things like that.
Yeah, so we're actually a monthly title. The article I did for the Surrey was on the website, but there will be stuff in the magazine that we go to the printers next Wednesday, the July issue. But we decamped from our office about 10 weeks ago, and we've been finding it okay with Zoom video, catch up, Zoom calls and WhatsApp messages and lots of phone calls, and we're doing okay as a team. And then in terms of speaking to cricketers, I've never spoke to as many cricketers in my life in a short space of time, because they're all sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah, we've had success with that by getting people on here. Yeah,
lovely long interviews with Graham Gooch and Dean Headley, Nick Owen of TVAM. I mean, he's not a cricketer, but he's a cricket fan. But yeah, had some lovely catches up with people who've got all this time on their hands.
You've got a competition running at the cricket at the moment about stars of lockdown.
Lockdown heroes. Yeah.
Lockdown heroes. That's it. That's a really interesting concept. I think that's so many people have just taken the easy route with lockdown of we're not going to bother. There's no cricket. We're not going to do a show, or we're not going to write something, or we're going to hide away. But it's we've kept going, and we've done similar to the things you're talking about. Is that we've taken the view that people are sat at home, and we've approached with really decent success people that we wouldn't normally get, that would either say, oh, we're too busy to talk to a little cricket show like yours, but we've attracted in some quite decent people. I think it's been a time to take advantage of it.
With us with these fitness initiatives and coaching initiatives. Probably the most notable, Rob Furley, the ex-Notts and Kent player.
Oh yeah.
A series of coaching videos, and it's given people at that time, isn't it, to sort of focus their mind and develop these things properly. Yeah.
Well, I would suggest to our listeners, anyone else out there, if they're looking for lockdown heroes, as I think was quoted in the Daily Mail recently, that one of the best things to come out of lockdown was a certain cricket show based in deepest, darkest Brentwood on a community station.
We're trying and failing miserably.
Somebody should nominate you,
yeah.
Somebody to nominate you.
Yeah, we will.
Captain Tom Moore, he'll be a lockdown hero.
God, yeah.
I think Captain Tom Moore can probably walk further than me and Darren at the best of times anyway. So the good news is obviously the tour's going to go ahead with the West Indies.
Yeah.
Do you foresee any other problems now? Or do you think it should be all systems go unless there's any other spikes?
I hope it's all systems go. I've heard several people express caution to me in the last day or two that just don't put all your eggs into one basket. We're talking about having a 4-page preview in the July edition of the Cricketer magazine about the forthcoming series. But I mean, I suppose things can go wrong if some coronavirus gets into the system. It might have to be abandoned. It's a worry, isn't it? But
I think you've got to take a risk at some. You've got to take a risk at some point anyway with all of this, haven't you? So
feels about right now, doesn't it? To start easing out, and I've got kids, and they were very good for 10 weeks, but they need to spread their wings now, and
climbing up the wall.
Opening.
Climbing up the wall like everyone else's kids, aren't they?
Yeah, we know that feeling here very well, very well.
Yeah. The club cricket clubs are itching. Some clubs are itching to start, aren't they?
Yeah.
They've been disappointed with the ECB statement, which was a little bit vague, but it's kind of hinted at an August 1st, and holding off till then. But a lot of clubs are itching to start July 10th, July 15th, or 17th.
The problem by August the 1st is there's no chance for any of them to get a meaningful season in other than a few friendlies, is there?
Well, I think maybe 16 local tournaments, 5 matches and a final or something.
Yeah.
A bit like that county championship model that they're muting.
Yeah, it seems to be rejected by most of the counties. If they're going to do it, it'll just be some sort of cup, won't it now, rather than a championship?
Well, I spoke to chief executives today, and one thing I think will come out is that they either all do it or don't do it. I don't think we'll see just 8, 9, 12 of them do it.
Yeah.
Have you heard today, have you, that they're actually rejecting the 5 championship match?
I've seen a couple of things on different sort of news outlets that they weren't keen on it being an actual county championship. Right? There wouldn't be an actual county champions. If it goes ahead, it would be more a case of it goes ahead, but it's just a case of some red ball cricket, and there'll be whoever won it would known as the County Champions Cup rather than the County Championship.
We'll call it something different then if they want. Well, splitting hairs a bit. Isn't it?
It is one of those, if it keeps everybody happy and we see some cricket.
Yeah. I think we accept there weren't many promotion and relegation.
Yeah, I think the problem with the Red Bull is that who's going to be watching it unless it's covered on TV? Could become a bit meaningless very quickly.
Well, they're talking about streaming them on the websites, aren't they? The live county website.
I think most do already, don't they? Most counties
do
have a decent stream service. So.
I mean, it is a money thing. I mean, Surrey are talking about 6 cameras, and they've got more money than most, haven't they? So they could do it sort of semi-properly.
I think we get spoiled by Sky's coverage, and what we've now become very used to seeing when you're watching a cricket. The replays, the different angles, But that's, as you say, it's very, very difficult and very expensive for counties to replicate that kind of thing. And we've all seen that when we go to matches where there are Sky cameras in attendance, just what a huge operation it is. It's not quite as straightforward as you think.
It's £1 million, isn't it, a day or a match or something to the championship.
It's going to be expensive.
Don't get me wrong, I love Sky's coverage. I think it's brilliant. I think they're brilliant. But I do get a bit frustrated by the fact they only show one championship game a summer. If this tournament went ahead, they show the final. I pray, am I being a romantic, but is there some TV channel out there would show championship? Or is it too expensive? I don't know.
Yeah, it would be one of those ones. It would need someone like Amazon with very deep pockets, or maybe BT Sport to come in and take it over. And
they'd show the blast. They'll show a blast game.
Yeah.
Once a night, won't they, Sky? If that starts.
Yeah, they'd have to.
But there has been talk of having blast games on terrestrial TV.
They'd have to look at doing similar to what I think football are doing. Football have just put their schedule out, isn't it? And it's sort of 2 or 3. I think there's 2 or 3 games on a Friday evening, then 5 games on a Saturday, 5 games on a Sunday. And I think if they're going to do
it all in,
I think if they're going to do the blast, they'd need to maybe do a sort of game at 5 p.m. and a game at 8 p.m. to help create the interest.
I can see why Sky are reluctant to relinquish rights to the blast. But if you looked at the TV deal that was agreed in the last 12 months that covers the period 2020 to 2024, the blast is worth a tiny amount in that contract. It's a 1.1 billion contract, and most of it is Test cricket, then it's ODIs, and then it's 100.
Yeah, and then it's the blast
but
comes
the blast
at the bottom of it, doesn't it?
Many people have said to me that the blast is very undervalued. And maybe they should be looking to try and sell that to BBC or ITV. Yeah,
and it's a perfect time to do it on the back of the World Cup success last year, and the fact that people there's this sort of pent-up hunger for live sport and live cricket amongst cricket fans.
It's a cruel twist of nature's fate, isn't it? That cricket hasn't been allowed to capitalise on that amazing summer.
Hasn't indeed. Huw, thanks for joining us. It's been a great pleasure talking to you.
Lovely.
And hopefully at some point we may see each other on a cricket ground. You never know.
Yes, so we'll get you into the studio and we can
absolutely.
Chat away then.
Is it?
So
we're over in Brentwood.
Yeah.
You stop in Brentwood on the way, don't know when, before the A12 or something.
Yeah.
That's right.
In the Miami Calf.
Yeah, not far off of there we are. Just a little bit before Chelmsford.
A burger and a DC comic from Miami Calf.
Yeah, somewhere like that. Be well away. Huw, thanks for your time.
Good night.
And we'll catch up with you soon.
Cheers.
Many thanks.
Bye.